Elon Musk is now suing the liberal media watchdog organization known as Media Matters for America. He is alleging fraud, and he is alleging that the site manufactured evidence showing ads from major brands being placed next to pro-Nazi content on the site. Now, before we get into the details, I think it's important to note that one of the things that Elon Musk wanted to do as soon as he purchased Twitter was to truly make it a free speech absolutist place where anyone can pretty much say anything for the most part. I think there are some limits, but I think most people noticed an increase in hateful tweets, hateful posts, if you will. Anti-Semitic posts also increased. And he also got rid of a huge percentage of the staff working at the company, which kind of did away with the content moderation that was taking place at the time. And of course, it's because of the fact that there were a lot of complaints coming from conservatives in regard to censorship on the platform. Okay, so that's the context you need to know about as we move forward with the details. Now, there was an ad that was posted on Twitter. It's important to keep in mind that this ad was created back in March prior to the current war that's happening in Gaza, but it was recently posted by a user, and that's what kind of spurred the controversy. So here's the ad in question.
I saw what you've been posting. Hitler was right. I didn't teach you that. You hide behind your screen, spewing all this hatred and ugliness. You got something you want to say? Get out of the truck and say it to their faces.
Now, I hadn't seen that ad until this recent controversy erupted. I just want to quickly note, I think that was a powerful ad. I like that ad a lot, but it received a response. So I'm gonna read the response from this person on X. Breaking Bot is the person who posted this. Okay, Jewish communities have been pushing the exact kind of dialectical hatred against whites that they claim to want people to stop using against them. I'm deeply disinterested in giving the tiniest crap now about Western Jewish populations, coming to the disturbing realization that those hordes of minorities that support flooding their country don't exactly like them too much. You want truth said to your face? There it is. And in response to that, Elon Musk tweeted, "You have said the actual truth." And then he followed it up with, "The ADL, Anti-Defamation League, unjustly attacks the majority of the West despite the majority of the West supporting the Jewish people and Israel. This is because they cannot, by their own tenets, criticize the minority groups who are their primary threat. It is not right and needs to stop." So Cenk, I'm gonna go to you. What is your interpretation of Elon Musk's response to that tweet?
So there's two different issues here, guys. The Elon Musk response and what Media Matters did. Let's start with the Elon Musk response. So I think it's deeply problematic. So this is because they cannot, by their own tenets, criticize the minority groups who are their primary threat. It's not just anti-Semitic. It's saying that minority groups are somehow hate Jews. It's also a problem in that direction. And then what was the great truth that that guy said? The Jewish communities have been pushing the kind of hatred against whites? Okay, I guess there's two possibilities here. One is the guy saying, well, Jewish Americans mainly vote for Democrats, and Democrats are in favor of more immigration, and that's crossing the border, and then now minorities are crossing the border in Israel, and that's a possible interpretation. Another possible interpretation is, unfortunately, the direction that the most extreme right wing has gone, which is great replacement theory. And for a lot of those nut jobs, they think that the Jews are doing great replacement theory about and bringing in immigrants to replace whites. Why? Look, I don't even want to parse the idiotic, moronic conspiracy theories. Jewish people are generally speaking white. Why would they want to replace themselves? But I loathe these conspiracy theories. So even if you took the more generous interpretation and you said, well, I'm going to blame all Jews because 70% of Jewish Americans vote for Democrats, and then I'm going to say that leads to hatred against whites. Why? Why are you bringing Jews into this? Why don't you just say Democratic voters then? There's like, even in the best case interpretation, it is not good. And certainly not anything that a reasonable person should say, oh, that's the absolute truth too. So it's got racism in it, it's got anti-Semitism in it. I think that Elon Musk is not well. And I think that he's like a little child who's trying to get attention, and he does it in all these outrageous ways, and it's not fun, okay? Media Matters is a different story, and I've got different nuanced thoughts on that.
So after Elon Musk engaged in that exchange, if you will, a bunch of brands decided to drop their advertising deals with the platform. So that alone led to a lot of backlash toward Elon Musk. But then Media Matters for America decided to put out a report in regard to the types of ads that apparently show up alongside various anti-Semitic posts. And so what Elon Musk is suing Media Matters for is he claims that they're manufacturing this evidence. So we'll get to his explanation on that in just a moment. But it's also important to keep in mind that Elon Musk has been feuding with the ADL for months over its efforts to reduce extremism on social media. That, on top of those 6 words in his first tweet, set the situation ablaze. And then on Thursday morning, Jonathan Greenblatt, who is the head of the Anti-Defamation League, said that Musk was acting dangerously. At a time when anti-Semitism is exploding in America and surging around the world, it is indisputably dangerous to use one's influence to validate and promote anti-Semitic theories. The White House also jumped in and condemned Elon Musk. You get the picture. Now let's get to Media Matters. So Media Matters publishes this report showing that X had been placing ads for brands like Apple, Bravo, IDM, Oracle, and Xfinity next to anti-Semitic and pro-Nazi content. And this comes as ex-CEO Linda Yaccarino tried to bring advertisers back by claiming that the site was safer for business. I mean, a lot of these advertisers had originally decided we're not doing business with X anymore because they've done away with moderation, and we don't want to risk having our content show up or our ads show up alongside content that we don't want to be associated with. And so she was engaging in this effort to bring them back, okay? X has also been reinstating numerous far-right extremist accounts, and the advertisers don't like that either. And here are some of the images that were posted in the report by Media Matters. So in one of them, you see a meme that says what people think a spiritual awakening is like versus what it's actually like. And so the spiritual awakening that they're referring to includes Hitler, and we all know what that means. And then under that, you see the ad for Apple. Okay, now after that report was published, multiple brands like Disney, Paramount, Warner Brothers, Discovery, Apple, and IBM decided to halt their advertising on X. Musk teased the litigation on Saturday after this had happened, saying the split-second court opens on Monday. X Corp will be filing a thermonuclear lawsuit against Media Matters and all those who colluded in this fraudulent attack on our company. And he did. The lawsuit was filed on Monday of this week. It accuses Media Matters of distorting how likely it is for these types of ads to appear next to extremist content. It also alleges that the group's testing methodology was not representative of how real users experience the site. The lawsuit simultaneously names Media Matters and Eric Hananoki, its senior investigative reporter, as defendants. It calls for a judicial order forcing Media Matters to remove its analysis from its website and accuses Media Matters of interfering with X's contracts with advertisers, of disrupting their economic relationships, and of unlawfully disparaging X. And we'll get to the response from Media Matters in a moment, but one of the things that Elon Musk is alleging and his defenders are alleging is that what Media Matters was doing in their methodology for their report, I don't know if this is true, this is what they're alleging, so obviously don't take this at face value. They say that, well, what Media Matters did is they started liking the anti-Semitic posts. And when you do that, the algorithm works in a way that keeps serving up more and more of that content to you on the platform. And then that's why the ads will end up showing up alongside that anti-Semitic and hateful content. That is what they're alleging.
Okay, so first, I've got bias on both sides, as I'll explain here. And secondly, this takes a lot of twists and turns. So number one, I'm definitely against the lawsuit. Why? I don't like these big bullies coming in and saying, I've got a lot of money, so I'm just gonna drive you out of business. I don't have to win the lawsuit. All I have to do is bankrupt you while you're fighting the lawsuit. I hate that idea. Second of all, what happened, Mr. Free Speech? You got free speech rights, they got free speech rights. Now all of a sudden they say something you don't like and you're gonna try to sue them out of existence. So apparently you don't really believe in free speech. And so, you did an analysis I don't like. Okay, well then speak out against it. You're the richest man in the world. You have a giant social media platform. You certainly can get your message out. Why do you need to sue them? That's a way of trying to legally intimidate them. And more than legally, financially intimidate them. Okay, so where's the nuance? And I normally like what Media Matters does because all they do 9 out of 10 times is just quote people. You quote them and then the right wing gets really mad. Oh, you quoted me for the racist things that I said. Well, okay, but then maybe you shouldn't have said them, right? But in this case, what they're doing is, it appears, trying to find a way to connect the hateful stuff on X to the advertisers. They went through some effort to do that. Now you might think, well, good, that stuff does exist on there, and the person who has the least right to complain is Elon Musk, because he's like, oh, I'm doing free speech, I'm gonna bring all the Nazis back. Oh, ads are next to Nazis. No one could have seen that coming. No, we all saw it coming, of course. I mean, in fact, there's almost no way to avoid it if you like those type of posts, right, at a minimum. Now, having said that, guys, both sides are now trying to drive all discussion out. If you don't agree with a rich person, they're gonna try to drive you out of business, okay? And they keep attacking advertisers. And what's happening is advertisers are not only backing away from things that are right wing, they're backing away equally from things that are left wing.
Yeah,
they are backing away from non-racist or people fighting against racism just as much as they're backing away from the racist. Because they're throwing their hands up and going, I can't tell. I don't want to get caught up in politics. I don't want a Mulvaney situation. That's the right wing doing their cancel culture, right? I don't want to get caught up with the left wing doing the cancel culture. Forget it. All news, all politics. So that's my bias. My bias is I like Media Matters for all the work that they've done in the past, but I think that this is deeply counterproductive. They have no idea how much they're hurting progressive shows as advertisers flee from all news.
No, it's actually really, really important. And by the way, get rid of the ideological bent of the content creators, right? Because this hurts all of them, right, left, doesn't matter. If you are a content creator who is responsible in what you are producing and putting out into the world, and that includes like moderate conservatives who are putting out decent content. I might disagree with it, but they have the right to do that. They're also being harmed by this. Yeah. This reminds me of what happened in the lead up to the so-called adpocalypse on YouTube, right? Because there were, unsavory, to say the least, content creators on the platform. And then a bunch of left-wing organizations made a big deal about that. Understandably so, right? That kind of content is jarring. And they specifically targeted the advertisers whose ads would show up on those videos because those videos were monetized. And then guess who got harmed? Every content creator on the platform. Every single one, including us. I remember going through, and the thing that was so frustrating about the outcome of that, the aftermath of that, was that everyone learned the wrong lessons, okay? The right wing was like, oh, this is all about left wing censorship and cancel culture, and they got super mad at the platform. They got mad at YouTube without fully understanding that no, the real issue here is that the advertisers are so terrified. They're the most terrified people in America, okay? Any controversy, they run for the hills. And so yeah, the second that anyone brings up any issue with a single content creator or a handful of content creators, they run for the hills and everyone else suffers the consequences of that.
Yeah, and if come on, the right wing does cancel culture ad nauseum. Anytime that any sponsor is involved with something that has a rainbow flag, something that they don't agree with for God knows what reason, right? They're like, oh, shoot it, burn it, oh, we hate it, cancel it, murder it, kill it, destroy the brand, right? And then what are brands gonna do? They're like, oh, this is all supernova toxic. I don't want any piece of it,
and
right?
by the way, now everything gets demonetized, right? Our coverage on the war in Gaza oftentimes gets demonetized. And the only reason why we do those stories knowing that they're gonna get demonetized is because, number one, it's important content to provide for our audience. We're not gonna stop just because it's demonetized, but also because our members, we have that business model where our members help carry us through financially so we have the resources necessary to do the work we wanna do.
Yeah, well, look, since we're doing it, I'll do a plug for us here. Just support us at tyt.com/join, because this is a massive issue for the entire industry.
Yeah.
You could do one-time donations, you could become a member, tyt.com/join, join button below the video on YouTube. So now back to really important stuff. So number one, you've got this ideological problem that is hurting everyone. So the right wing, when you shoot up a Bud Light can, you think you're being cool, but you're actually hurting right wing shows. Left wingers, when you went to go cancel a right winger, you're actually also hurting left wing shows that are trying to fight against racism, sexism, et cetera, right? So I don't know how this industry is gonna survive. All the advertisers are leaving. So it's become supernova toxic because of all these bad faith actors. So now the last part of it is, guys, the guys who started this is not Media Matters. It was actually mainstream media that purposely targeted social media because it's their competitors. So it was CNN and Fox News started doing news stories about YouTube. YouTube is actually the least toxic of all of these platforms, but they targeted YouTube anyway. Why? Because YouTube was their #1 competitor. So they went and looked and they told their reporters to go and find anything that's bad on YouTube, anything, because it's a giant platform with billions of videos. And as soon as you find something bad, we're gonna write a story about how that's all of YouTube. And if you have an ad on YouTube, remember, you should move it to Fox News or CNN. Oops, I mean, I'm doing investigative journalism.
So true.
And you should take your ads out of there and put it back on mainstream media. That's how all this stuff started. And especially if you're independent, again, it doesn't matter what part of the political spectrum you're on. Do not aid and abet the establishment and the elites in destroying this industry that has actually liberated us to tell you things that are true. The alternative is to go back to the terrible old days where only the establishment is in charge and there's only an approved truth. And of course it has to be in favor of corporate rule and all of those things. No, this is a bad strategy and a bad direction to go, both for Media Matters cherry picking here, in my honest opinion, and Elon Musk for suing them. Just fight back rhetorically, man. You don't have to try to drive them out of business. And you lose all sympathy that way. You seem like a bully who's trying to intimidate people with your money.
Look, I mostly agree with you, but I also don't begrudge his fury because the advertisers did drop out. You get what I'm saying?
They did, but at the same time, he has the least legs to stand on.
No, I totally agree. I mean, doing away with the moderation and allowing for this content. And by the way, if you want to allow that content on the platform, fine, okay. But you have to at least work on the algorithm to ensure that advertisers do not show up alongside that hateful content, right? That way you can provide the protection that the advertisers are looking for while staying true to your free speech absolutism, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna say one last thing. To the advertisers of the world, grow up. Like, oh my God, there's bad things in the world. And one of our ads was seen next to a bad thing, so that means everybody hates us. No, it doesn't. There's a million ads all over the internet. It shows up next to donkey sex. Who cares? Who cares? It's not the old days where they're like, oh, there are 3 stations on and we are going to put our ad on and get 100% of the market. And we want vanilla programming, we want all programming to suck and be really boring. Just grow up. Who cares if your ad's next to something bad? Okay, everybody's gonna survive and nobody hates you for it. And if people blame you for it, they're morons anyway. Look at what Nike did. They went with Colin Kaepernick, they stood up against the bullies, and they gained $6 billion in market cap, okay? Please, learn business. Thanks for watching the video, guys. We also love it if you hit the join button below, because that makes you a member, and members allow us to be independent, honest. We can be as progressive as we want, no corporate media influence, and that's all because of you guys. We love doing the show with our members. Hit the join button, become one of the Young Turks.